All right, welcome back to the Real Estate Huddle. We're on episode 36, and we are going to tell you all about the worst experiences we've ever had working across from another realtor. We're not going to mention any names. We love realtors, by the way, because we are realtors. We don't want to dog on realtors in general by any means. Just want to make that clear. We think that what we provide and what other great agents provide is an amazing service, and we truly, believe in that. But man, every now and then you run into a challenge, right? And someone who just has their head on a little crooked, maybe, or just you run into them after having a bad day or something like that. So there's always experiences that are interesting in the real estate business, and maybe you'll find this interesting as we talk through some of the real life experiences that we've had without mentioning any names to not be disrespectful. So I'll kind of open up to you guys. What are some of the things? I think combined experience, like in this room, we've got plus 30 years and more than that. And so there's been a lot of transactions here, probably 850 plus transactions as well. So we've had a lot of experience in this space, and every time you do a deal, usually you're working with another agent alongside or across from you, right? That's representing the other party. And so you run into some funny things. So what are some of the things that you guys have come across as you've been doing this?
My most interesting deal was my first one ever. Working with a client and buying a townhome. And it was very interesting because the listing agent was the actual owner of the property. And we did an offer, negotiated, did all that, and then we went through inspection, and the inspection report came back, and it was the HVAC system was less than stellar in their performance. So had cracked heat exchanger, I believe it was a cracked heat exchanger. The electrical panel was one that was recalled. Just had a myriad of different things. So, but turns out the property was listed with central air, and upon inspection, there was no central air located in the property. So
advertise and market it in the MLS with central AC.
With central air conditioning.
Yeah.
We were looking at it I think it was in February timeframe, so air conditioning wasn't on.
Oops.
Didn't think much of it. We're kind of going through it, and we're like, hey, there's something amiss here. So, and then with the furnace having, CO2 leak, I think it was a cracked heat exchanger, so had other issues with that, and that was a major finding in the inspection report, as well as the electrical panels. So went back to negotiate, and the agent on the other end of the line was a very large, very boisterous person, very intimidating, and is known in the community for some other things as well. And it was very, very comical, very intimidating for me.
Because you're such a small guy.
Yeah, I'm such a small guy walking into this first transaction going, oh boy, is this how they all go? Is this I was very fearful, and had some good coaching from Landon, and was able to work through it. And turns out we were able to get through and get a new HVAC system, central air installed, and a new electrical panel to get all of this tidied up before closing, and worked out really well. But it was an error on the listing side, and he had no one to blame because he was the owner of the property as well, but he had it as a rental property, so he wasn't very attached to it. So it was just a very interesting setup, and it was very intimidating with the crotchety old man on the other end of the phone is probably the easiest way. So grumpier old men was, kind of real life.
Lesson learned, check it twice, right? Make sure when you're listing a property, you got all of your T's crossed and I's dotted, and you know exactly what's in the property. Don't just guess or assume. So we've seen other agents do that a lot, and it usually goes to our benefit when we're representing a buyer, right? When that happens. So
as far as listing them wrong, I think the classic in Colorado is to list mountain views, where it's like if you look between these two trees and have perfect
in the
vision,
winter,
there's the
these
tip
2 days
of one
of the year.
of them, maybe you'll see it. So
on the winter solstice.
There's a lot of those with mountain views where agents list that. One of the worst ones I've seen was a house that was listed as 3 beds. And we go into the house, and it's not a big house, not a lot of square footage. And I'm like, all right, there's definitely only 2 beds here. Are they claiming you're going to put a bed in the living room? So I'm kind of confused. We go around the back of the property, and there's a shed. And I'm like, okay, let me show the client the shed. I open up a shed, which is completely built wrong, DIW doing it wrong. I open it up. It's a gravel floor that has water seeping into it as we're viewing it. And they've placed an air mattress on top of the gravel, and they've plugged in a space heater. And they are claiming that this is their third bedroom, this gravel shed that's not enclosed from the elements with a bed in it. So that was probably the weirdest, just like listing.
So when did your clients move in?
Yeah.
How soon?
Yeah, they loved it right after.
Did the waterbed come with purchase?
I think if enough water comes in, having the air mattress, you can float once the water comes in, and then you'll be all right. So.
Oh my gosh!
Wow.
I had a similar one early on. It was probably less than my first half dozen deals, and the seller turns out is the owner. And she's affiliated, and then there's that site we look up to learn about the other agent, their volume and average price point. This was her first deal. So I didn't have a whole lot to go on, but in the end, it's actually great for my client who was buying because she said yes to just about anything we asked. Anyway, it's a reason. Try to find someone who's got a few more laps around the track.
No doubt. Yeah, I forgot about this, but I actually do have an agent blacklist on my phone, on my notes. And if I have a horrible experience with working with an agent, I will write them down on this blacklist. And I guess if I have to work with them again, I will. But those are people that I just want to avoid if I have competing offers. Yeah, and I'll remember and know it was that person. Right? So I had one that was like, I called her the expeditious due diligence monster. And it was insane. Like the fact checking and the homework, she made everything 20 times harder than it needed to be. Right. And just asked for this and this and this and this and this and this. And it's just not normal things that you would ask for in a real estate transaction. So those are the things that drive me nuts when it's just like so beyond like what is simple. Cause we represent our clients and we want our clients to be safe and protected through the transaction. But at the same time, like we are also there to make a deal and bring two parties together and create a win-win. Right. And some agents just don't see it that way. They see it as like I've got to win and you've got to lose sort of thing. And that's not how real estate deals should be, right? It should be a win-win where both parties are happy and they feel well represented, and so I've had a couple of those that are just interesting situations for sure.
I've going on the MLS to find properties to show buyers. I'm sure you guys have come across this, so I can't, name a specific person, but I would think this is a broker issue. When you go through the pictures and it is just dirty and like piles of laundry and the bathroom sink's covered in toothbrushes and toothpaste and toilet paper, and like every picture was like, oh my gosh, this is what it looks like at its best. Where your realtor came in and took these pictures. Yeah. I don't know how anybody would feel comfortable showing anything like that.
Yeah.
But I just kind of skip those. It's like, ew.
Yeah. Well, and granted, like some agents are actually good agents that just work with very challenging clients at times, right? So sometimes it's on the agent for just being very neglectful, but other times it's like they've told them over and over and the client just doesn't listen. So I like to have a little mercy there too. But I walked through one house with a client who there was a dead dog in the basement and like on the dog bed. And this house had been like left. Nobody had checked up on it for years. So in my mind, that's like neglectful and super sad, right? Like we saw it and I immediately called and said, hey, like you've got to come over here. It was really a sad
clients
thing.
With you?
Yeah, I did. Walking through the house. Yeah. And it looked like, it had just been abandoned completely. So, more of a knock on the owners, I think, than the agent for sure. But it was pretty sad. So you see some crazy things in real estate for sure.
Yeah. I had an agent who I'll call Max BS. who, when I was dealing with this
I love
agent,
the nickname.
firstly,
Made up name.
Max's pictures, he managed to get his knee into every picture he took on his iPhone, which was an interesting feature, that every picture of the house had his knees in it or him in the mirror. I thought that was funny. But afterwards, we go, and I immediately notice there's something structural going on with this property. And so I call him, and he goes, "Oh, yeah, I totally sent it to all the agents. I must have just forgot to disclose that to you specifically. Let me send that over to you."
Yeah.
And he sends me an inspection report that's been cropped just to this area that says, like, "Oh, the brick needs cosmetic repair." I got the full inspection report. Directly above that and directly below that is like structural issues, structural engineer recommended, all of this stuff.
Oh my goodness.
And
I remember that.
Yeah, and the funniest part to me was we had a structural engineer go out there and, analyze the situation, knew exactly what was going on. And so I go to Max, and he came back after reviewing the structural engineer's work and said, "Okay, well, my sellers don't feel like it's a problem," which is hilarious to me because it's like, I'm sure they don't feel like having a structural issue, but the structural engineer already said you have one.
Yeah.
So I don't think how you feel about it is going to reverse it right now. So happy ending. I got a really great concession for my buyer, and much more than the structural engineer said it would take to worst case scenario fix it. So
nice.
Yeah.
ended happily,
Oh, wow.
ended well for my buyer. But if I see Max again, I'm probably
Hey.
going to not want to work with him as much.
Or
Those
at
sellers
least
were
ask
just
for all
giving
the
you,
information.
they're following the instruction from their elementary school teacher, giving you
Yeah.
an iMessage of how they feel.
Yeah, right.
Totally normal.
I had one other story where I had a agent that, prior to any buyers showing that we're going through, we're trying to call the agents and get the information and get the story of the property. And this one didn't return calls, replied with a text message saying, "Hey, just, go and, tell me what you think." So it was a property that was kind of like a wholesale deal. So it was, needed work. It was definitely a rehab thing. So, and said it wouldn't qualify for FHA. And I'm like, okay, well, we'll go take a look. So I go there, and we're walking through, and the kitchen is completely demolished. Like, it's just removed, and it's sitting out in the back porch. Like, okay, that's interesting. So we're walking around through the rest of the house, and we get into the basement, and there's white primer on all of the joists in the subfloor underneath the kitchen. I'm like, okay, they had like a massive water leak, and it was mold, and they cleaned it up. And trying to text and get information from the agent, and he wasn't responding. So I'm like, okay. So as there's like 6 different parties looking at this house all at the same time, and people are like, come with their ladders, and they're looking at everything, and it was like a contractor special, right? So I went and talked to the neighbor who just happened to be out on his patio, and his name was Howard, and I chatted with him, and he kind of told me a little bit more of the story, which was kind of interesting. So it turns out the parents that owned the place, they had their son living with them. They moved out to the retirement place. I think they went down to Florida, and their son stayed in the home. Well, their son was kind of a loner and a recluse and kind of hid in the home and kind of wasn't very social with everything. Well, eventually the mail started piling up, and someone called for a welfare check. Turns out he had passed away in the kitchen. So all of the kitchen being ripped out and the floor being painted and all of that was because of the decomposing body that happened in there. And we decided to pass on writing an offer on that home.
Yeah.
At Juju, we decided, so.
Isn't that
but,
supposed to be disclosed? Or?
No, so fun fact. Psychological items like that are not, you don't have to disclose them in Colorado. So you can do your own due diligence and try to find out, right? With police records or with, research on the internet, stuff like that. But yeah, it doesn't have to be disclosed.
I would want to
Colorado.
know that.
Other states it does, but here it doesn't.
Some people, that might be like, ooh, they're in, like,
Yeah.
there's a code,
Totally.
Some people would totally want to buy that.
You guys watch NCIS?
Yeah.
Do you know the story I'm talking about?
No.
Denoza moved into some apartment years and years ago because there was a decomposing body or something like that. No?
No,
Keep going. Lay it all out.
Fast forward 10 years, then another member of the team moves in with his wife. He knows, doesn't tell her. Of course, she finds out.
Man. Yikes.
Great comment.
Yes.
So on that note, this is not funny. So I can't have a bad situation without talking about sometimes agents are just really dishonest. And in my case, the seller was even more dishonest. So dishonest that his previous agent quit, which we found out much later. But through the submitting an offer, a made-up offer, which we never can 100% prove, but later, $45,000 in concessions later, like, why didn't you just sell it to your buddy who was paying you? And it's miserable. They're close friends of mine in this case we were working with. And we just like tightened up and we muscled through it. And in the end, they're happy as a lark, but miserable every step of the way.
Yeah.
Every time they open their mouth.
That's too
Frustrating.
bad.
Well, and we could tell you experience after experience that are great experiences with other agents we've worked with on the other side that are so professional and awesome. But this is our show, so we can say whatever we want. So that's why we're telling you the bad experiences. So hopefully you found it interesting to hear of some of these things that do happen in the real estate industry sometimes. And even more of a reason to get great representation. We're not perfect. We don't claim to be, but we feel like we represent people very well. We're honest, believe in what we do. So give us a call if we can help you in your needs. And thanks for listening today. We'll catch you on the next one.